I've lived on the river all my life, and I built my first boat when I was 10, and I've been racing and cruising between here and Cornwall for many years. And my boats in my paintings are either arriving, or they're leaving, or they are safely at anchor. And a lot of my early works were about anchorages and trying to get the boats to rest. And there's a strange magic to it, because very often the material that we find will reflect the place where we've found it. And that is sometimes astonishing and quite without any logic. We were in the River Otter. The first time it happened, we were in the mouth of the River Otter, and we found a piece of wood, and I held it up, and it was the shape of the mouth of the River Otter. And that's happened continuously, particularly at Exmouth, on the bar at Exmouth. I've always been interested in wrecks. Ever since I was a young kid, I would row out and visit old wrecked boats. And I think what interested me in them was that they no longer have a function. They're no longer a boat. There's something beyond a boat. They're a dead boat, and because they don't have a function, they're just purely aesthetic objects. They seem to me now, in retrospect, to be very much like sculptures. They're almost expressive objects, really, but expressive of time and of a life that they have led. Journeys are supposed to change people, and you're supposed to be different at the end of the journey than you were at the beginning. The paintings are never the same at the end as they are at the beginning, or as they intend to be at the beginning. And to me, painting a painting is not making something as much as overcoming a difficulty. And you know when the problem's solved because the painting's finished, but very often paintings can never be finished, and they just have to be abandoned. Sometimes they come together very quickly. Sometimes it's as if they have a life all of their own, almost as if they have their own destiny. And other times they just will fight and resist and kick back and continue to be a problem. I want to try and cut one of these little boats in, and I'm going to try and put it in here. When I'm working, or if I find a piece of wood, then suddenly I'll identify something that's been stored in my subconscious. And I think a lot of it is to do with qualities of light. I've actually discovered the light on the upper reaches of the estuary from having found the light on pieces of wood, found wood. And on one occasion, I had to sail upstream with a piece of wood, and actually hold the piece of wood against the light of the upper reaches of the river. The upper reaches are very, very dark. There are a lot of trees up there that overhang the water, and sometimes it's difficult to distinguish between the reflection of the trees and the trees themselves. So the water is very, very green, and the light is very dark. It's very dark and very mysterious. And water usually reflects light, so to reflect dark makes it quite spooky up there. It's quite a sinister place. There are dark places in our lives, and there are dark places to be found on the river. I'm going to cut through the surface now. This is always a important moment, because I'm actually going through the surface of the wood, and I'm never sure what it is I'm going to find. Sometimes, if I'm careful, I'll reveal another colour underneath. I think on this occasion the paint is so thin, the found paint is so thin that I'm just going to go straight into the veneer. Difficult to anticipate what colour the veneer will be, whether it'll be darker than the ground or whether it'll be lighter. And I'm using a surgeon's scalpel to cut around the edges. And I don't know why I need to cut it. I don't know why I need to do that. I just know that it's more real than painting it on the surface. This is going in quite deeply now. I'm going to use an etching needle. It's a very fine, slim point. I'm going to try and lift that top layer, and that's fantastic. That is absolutely brilliant, because the colour of the veneer is a very deep ochre, and it's contrasting dramatically with the ground, with the painted ground. The painted ground is quite chalky, quite white, and this stuff's coming up. It couldn't be better, and it's cleaning up well too. It's cutting out well. So I've got a very dramatic moment here, and I'm going to have a boat very, very quickly and see what story it has to tell me. That's a stunner. So the voyage begins and the boat is off.